Yep. We're recharging from after eating. We'll come back. Let's try this again. Head on back and get us some lunch. Still got kind of a busy day here, don't we?
Yeah, but not. It's a good busy.
Yeah.
It's a relaxed busy. Would you say?
Yep. We went birding.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go on a little tour of the Atalaya.
Atalaya.
Yeah, Atalaya. So
Two, yeah. And it's only $2 for the tour, so that's not bad.
So we'll bring everybody along.
Yeah. We've done the tour before, but this time we'll bring you all along.
Yep, that and us, because we figure someday we're going to be watching all this.
And us too, memories.
Yeah, memories, so.
Yeah.
And the kids too, they've even been there, so.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah, not just us, it's also you guys and us too. I can see us old when we can't move around anymore, sitting back watching all these old videos.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
My name is Jim. I'm a volunteer with the Friends of Huntington Beach, and I'll be doing a tour today and talking about the Huntingtons and the castle. I'll jump around on my subjects because some things are better said in certain places. Archer Huntington was a philanthropist, a poet, a scholar, businessman. Anna was a world-renowned sculptor. Okay, they got married in 1923, and 4 years later, Anna got tuberculosis. They lived up in New York, and the doctors told her, you got to find someplace warmer for the winters. You can't stay up here in New York in the winters. So they went searching, and after searching in several places, they happened to be going down the Intercoastal Waterway, and there was a sign that said, for sale, a former hunting lodge that was formerly 4 rice plantations. So they looked into it, and just like each one of us here, Archer started off by buying 9,000 acres to put his house. So they would come down October time frame. They would go back up late March time frame. And many times when they came down, they would come down in that, there's a trailer pictured on the side of the garage. That was a Greyhound bus, and he had it converted into a trailer. So for you campers, that's your original RV.
Oh, wow.
Okay, now the ironic thing here isn't that they were in a camper, it's that what was in the camper with them. They traveled down here with their pet macaw, their 5 monkeys, and any number of dogs. Could, depending on the year, could be 6, could be 12, many dogs. They loved animals. I'm going to just point to the spots out here. We're not going to go into these spots. Okay, so that was the garage where you paid. Next to it is the area that they would split wood for the fireplaces. We'll talk about the fireplaces. Also, right around the corner, there's an oyster shucking room. They loved seafood. One servant that they had, only job, keep them in seafood. Okay? To you guys that fish, I mean, it's really tough. The guy had to go fishing every day. You know? Over here, there's a bear pen. Now, Anna sculpted from live models, always from live models. So if she was sculpting the bears, she would tell her zookeeper over at Brook Green Gardens, which was their personal zoo, their personal gardens, bring the bears over, I want to sculpt them today. Now she could come out, observe them, and go in and sculpt them. They also have something that's called the dog kennels on the sign, but that could be for any animals. They could take the horses out and put them outside. It was just a spot that they could put any animal. This is beautiful. It's not too hot or anything today. The stables. They both rode horses, but horses was Anna's favorite subject to sculpt. If she sculpted a person, she usually put them on a horse. She just loved doing horses. There's a story here on the outside. It talks about when she did a sculpture of Don Quixote. Does anybody remember Don Quixote? He was the one that fought the windmills. She put a twist on it. She did the sculpture of him after he fought the windmills. So he was pretty beat up and malnutritioned by then, and she needed a horse that would fit, to use for a model. So they actually drove around and found a farmer that had a horse that looked like it wouldn't make it through the night. Okay, it was in absolutely horrendous shape. She paid $25 for it. Now, 1930s, that's a lot of money. Okay, she also paid $25 extra for him to bring it here because it couldn't get here on its own. When it got here, it was so weak, they had to support it with a belly band from the top, from the roof of the stables. Well, she sculpted, and the sculpted pictures here. It's over at Green Gardens. She also nursed that horse back to health. You see, she loved animals, and she wasn't going to let an animal die of malnutrition. And she got it back to healthy, put it out to pasture. She was happy. There'll be other examples of how much she loved animals. Let's go into the house. Okay, not exactly what you'd expect when I say come into the house, right? For those that haven't been in here. I told you Archer was a scholar, but he wasn't a scholar like sitting at a desk all day learning from a teacher. He told his father, I want to learn from people that do. So his father sent him all over the world, and he learned from people that actually had the experience of things. And one of his favorite places to go was Spain. He enjoyed the southern coast of Spain because what they had there was the Moorish castles and the Moorish fortresses. Now the Moors, just to remind everybody, were the year 700 to the year 1492. Okay, so he loved them so much that when he came back here, he patterned his house after a Moorish fortress. Okay, that's the reason it looks so much older. The house was built in 1930 to 1933, but it certainly looks hundreds of years older than that. And it gets confusing because you think, well, there's no electricity. There was. Okay, so what was Moorish that he did? Well, first of all, the castles were all lined up, and in between the castles and attached to the castles, they had atalayas. Atalaya is Spanish for watchtower. So Archer said, I got to put a watchtower in, I'm calling it Atalaya, right? So we were fortunate enough not to have any pirates here in 1930. So he took his watchtower and put it right in the middle of his courtyard. Okay, didn't make a whole lot of sense as a watchtower. Did, however, make a lot of sense as a water tower. So on the top of that watchtower was a 3,000-gallon Cypress water tank. Okay, at 40 feet high, it gave water pressure for the entire house. They would fill that from an artesian well out back. The front faces the water. So out back, there's a 10,000-gallon cistern. They would fill that. When the water settled, they would pump it up to here and then use the water out of this. So what else is Moorish? The courtyards themselves. You see that the Moors were afraid of being invaded by pirates. Okay, so everything you see is to protect them from the pirates. Archer didn't have a problem, right? So he did all this because it was Moorish. Okay, so he did the courtyard surrounded by walls. He did the gratings on the windows. A lot of people drive up to the place and think it's a prison, and it's not. Okay, the gratings on the inside are much more ornate than the gratings on the outside. On the outside, they're pretty much bars, and it looks like a prison. This is true to the way that the Moors did it as well. The groove that runs around the sidewalk. 90% of the people will say that's drainage, right? Yeah, they're 100% wrong. That's irrigation. See, what the Moors would do is fill that with water. Do you see the little weep holes that are cut out? That allows the water to come out and water the lawn.
Ah,
Pretty good idea for the year 700 or 800, right?
yeah.
They haven't talked me into putting it at my house. The mortar that protrudes out. Again, most people think it's sloppy. It's sloppy workmanship. Well, it's very difficult to do because you can't just put a level on it, right? Everything's in the way. Archer absolutely loved it. He insisted on it. He was so important to him that the tower was halfway built, and he came back and he looked at it and it was pristine. It was pointed beautifully. Everything was excellent. And he said, that's fantastic workmanship. Now rip it down and redo it. I want slump joint mortar. Okay? The workers called it the Huntington squeeze. We're going to go into Anna's outside studio first. We'll go through that and go into the inside studio. Come on in.
Can you just imagine them living around here?
Yeah.
That's probably how good it felt.
Okay, somebody asked if there was any advantage to the slump joint mortar. The main thing was lights and flavors. Archer really liked it. However, it also was an advantage for the creeping big ivy that he loves so much to be able to adhere to. So you saw all the greenery growing on it. That's creeping big ivy. And another thing it did, it's only on the outside of the house. It allowed them to put a stucco over that and make it look like an old building. The outside was painted to look like Spanish moss. The ratings, these are the original colors. It's not the original paint. We have to redo it quite often.
Like they were the same color?
It was this color, or as close as,
Yeah.
reasonable. So first things first, if you lean against the wall, your back will turn white. You see, this is the original paint that's on here. All the walls would have been painted this color white. And it's actually not a lead-based paint.
Maybe more
It's
information.
an oyster shell-based paint. Believe that or not. And you won't see anything growing on it because the oyster shell stops that. There would have been no pictures on the walls, no rugs on the floor. Very basic. When we get inside, all the furniture was wrought iron furniture. Very similar to what you put out on your patio today. That's what they wanted, and that's what they did. With one exception, we'll talk about that later. So the fireplace that's back here, that's the first of 22 fireplaces that you'll see today. And even though that most of them have the inlays built in, meaning the cool air goes in the bottom, gets heated, and naturally just comes out of the top. Very effective, okay? So we know what that, Archer figured out the first year he was here that it takes an awful lot of wood to heat this place. So wherever you see those holes up on top, the vent holes, there was a coal stove down on the ground floor. So they would have had a fireplace and two coal stoves to keep this warm in winter. Let's get into Anna for her studio at Morel. If she had her choice, she'd be sculpting right out in the open, full sunlight, much light as she could get. But it wasn't always perfect weather, so she would come in here. There were doors, there were windows. We'll talk about the windows when we get to the bedroom where I can actually point to some windows. But if she came in here, she had a 25-foot skylight overhead, so they gave her quite a bit of light and large windows on both sides. So it gave her ample The pieces that she sculpted in here were not as big as the one that's out in front of Green Gardens, as they would have never been able to get it in and out of it. So let's see if we can get to know Anna just a little bit. We'll start with her parents. Her father was a paleontologist, and I usually have kids in here that they can answer if you're a paleontologist. And a zoology instructor for MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He was also the founder of Woods Hole Oceanographic Research in Woods Hole, Cape Cod. He's the one that taught Anna how to look at animals, how to visualize and to remember all the little things. Her mother was a water painter, very gifted artist. She wasn't professional, she was just very talented. Her older sister, Harriet, was the sculptor in the family. She's the one that went to school. She studied under some pretty prestigious names and was a good sculptor. Anna played the violin. Practiced every day, 6 to 8 hours every day. One day, Harriet needed a hand for the sculpture she was doing. She was doing a man and his dog. And she got the man, captured him, but she didn't have time to get to the dog. So she asked Anna, would you sculpt the dog for me? Now, Anna never had a lesson, never sculpted. And she said, why not? We'll give it a try. So she used the family pet as the model, and she sculpted the dog. It came out good. She enjoyed doing it. She felt like she really captured it. The violin got put away. She sculpted the rest of her life. That was at age 12. She sold her first piece by the time she was 17. Before she was 30 years old, she was making over $50,000 a year. That's about the year 1900. That's equivalent to $1.2 million a year today.
Wow.
So if anybody tells you that she married Archer for his money, you can tell them that they're completely wrong. You see, she almost didn't marry Archer because she was afraid he'd ruin her career. Now, what did she base that on? Well, see, Harriet got married, never sculpted again. So she was afraid that would happen to her. It didn't. Okay, they supported each other with the arts and all of that. In fact, the only thing that changed is once they got married, she never sold another piece of sculpture the rest of her life. From that point on, she became the philanthropist, and she donated every place, all over. And many of her pieces over at Green Gardens. There are 80 to 100 pieces over there. So I highly recommend that you go check that out. Now, as long as we're talking about money, let's nail where Archer's came from, because I know there's somebody that's wondering. Archer did it the old-fashioned way. He inherited every single thing. You see, Archer's father, a guy named Polis Potter Huntington, made his original money during the gold rush. He didn't mine gold. He sold equipment to the people mining gold. That's where the money was. That was guaranteed money. Then he took that money and put it into the railroad. He owned the Chesapeake, Ohio Railroad, the Southern Pacific Railroad, the Western Pacific Railroad. His picture is there's a picture in Utah driving a gold stake, the Transcontinental Railroad coming together. The guy driving, this isn't part of the tour, but the guy driving the stake is a guy named Stanford. I think he made a university after something like that. Then he took that money, wasn't good enough. He started Newport News Shipbuilding in Newport News, Virginia. And he started a steel mill to make locomotives for his railroad. That's also where these beams came out of.
Where was that?
The steel mill, just inland from Newport News. So it's still in Virginia. I know you think Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh when you think steel, but that was Carnegie. He did all that. So Oh, I forgot the main point. Archer was an only child. So, no money problems. Any questions?
Did they have children?
They did not. They got married when she was 47 and he was 53. So it was later in life. It was her first marriage. It was his second. His wife left him for somebody that made more money. That's possible. In English act.
Oh, well,
I don't know. So let's go into Archer's workspace. So this was Archer's center. He'd have his desk here. He could be writing poetry. He could be designing changes to Brook Green Gardens, because Brook Green Gardens opened to the public prior to this house being finished. And I think they've changed every year since, so he could easily been making changes. But the one thing he wasn't doing is drawing any plans for this house. You see, there were no plans for this house. He would meet with his contractor and explain to his contractor where he wanted a wall, where he wanted a door, everything, how he wanted it. And then he'd leave. And he'd come back 2 months later, or a month later, whatever. And he'd say, well, that's okay, but no, rip that down, no, rip that down,
no.
rip that. He's built his house 3 or 4 times. I mean, it was his own Lego set. And you'd think that would bother him, wouldn't you? Spending all that money to redo it, and it didn't bother him at all. You see, he had a separate goal. This was the Depression. It was really important to Archer that the people in this area have food, be able to feed their families. So if he paid it 3 times, that's fine. He had 100 people working on this. He was the largest employer in Georgetown County during the Depression. So that was what was important to Archer. So when he came here, there was no electricity in this entire lower strand, okay, of the Grand Strand. So he hired somebody to bring electricity from Georgetown. Georgetown's quite a ways down. And he said, this is where you're gonna start to get a feel for Archer and the way that he was. He said, if anybody wants to tie into the electricity on your way up, just tie him in, I'll pay for it. Anybody know any millionaires that will do that today? So the contractor said, okay. He says, but as long as I'm running these wires, do you want me to run telephone cables too? He said, absolutely not. He hated the telephone. Just despised it. He didn't want to look at it. He didn't want to talk on it. There was never a telephone in here when he was here. Okay? Just despised it. He was known to put out hundreds of letters a week. Okay? Not the telephone. We'll back up just a little bit. The little room that you just walked through, that was his secretary's office, Mrs. Perkins. And anybody want to guess who wrote the 100 letters? So, Mrs. Perkins was Scottish in descent, as were most of the staff that traveled back and forth from New York in the early years and Connecticut in the later years. And that wasn't by accident. You see, the Scots were known for their honesty, for not talking behind their employer's back, for being trustworthy. And obviously that's important to Archer, right? But it was more important for another reason. Because he felt the same way back to them. He treated his staff the same way. In later years, Mrs. Perkins was losing her eyesight. And he didn't trade her in for 2 20-year-olds. He stuck by her because that's what you do. And that's just the way he treated people. Most of what you're seeing today is original. Some things that isn't original. You'll see the troughs where the cables are. They were there. The cables that are in there would have been knob and tubing. Very unsafe. Had to get rid of it. And this is updated. Obviously, you see PVC piping, they didn't have that. The hallway that goes through the courtyard, the roof on it, you see corrugated steel, that was asbestos roofing. Had to get rid of it, safety reasons. It's understandable. But in this room, there's some changes. This door wasn't here. There used to be a window here between Archer and his secretary, and she would have to go around to come into the office. That hole up above wasn't there. There's another little hole, some of you can see it through here in the wall, that wasn't there. And when we go into her bathroom, we're gonna find a kitchen sink. I assure you, she didn't have a kitchen sink in her bathroom. So let's see if we can tie all these things together. Archer passed away in 1955. Anna would never sleep in this building again. She would never stay here. This was theirs together. She would still come down, they would go to Brook Green Gardens, or she would go to Brook Green Gardens and work over there, but she would never stay here. Well, we died in
Would she come back and work here and?
She would not. There was a sculpting room over at Brook Green, and she would sculpt over at Brook Green, and she would sculpt up north. By then it was Connecticut. No, she wouldn't come in here. She took all the furniture and actually sent it back to Connecticut, and some of it got sent to Brook Green, and some of it got given to long-time employees, just because they liked it. He died in 55. In 1958, the place was getting ransacked a little bit. So what she did was hire one of her longtime employees, Mrs. Chandler, to stay here and to oversee the place to make sure. Mrs. Chandler didn't have staff that Anna had, so she wasn't going to keep 22 fireplaces going. And, just couldn't do it. So they cordoned off this corner, and they lived in this corner. So the bedroom became the living room. They used Archer's bathroom. This became a bedroom. They needed another bedroom. Poco door in there, that was another bedroom. Pretty simple. They only wanted to keep one fireplace going and heat this whole thing. That's ventilation. That's all it is. Let the ventilation, let the air move. And there was no kitchen on this half of the house. So her bathroom got turned into a kitchen. That's why the kitchen sink's in there. So it all makes sense, right?
What about the spaces for windows? Were there actual windows in there?
We're gonna talk about windows in the bedroom,
Okay.
okay? I need windows to point to so I can talk to them.
Where did the brick come from? Was it
Brick came from Cheraw, South Carolina. Company called Palmetto Brick that's still in business. The steel, all the gratings, all the furniture, the tools that they had for all the fireplaces came from Miami, Florida, just outside of Miami, a company called Tito and Roger that is not still in business. They also did all the gates and everything over at Brook Green. So let's go through Archer's dressing room, through his bathroom. Now, when you're going through the bathroom, take a look at the shower. 7-head shower. Pretty unheard of in 1930. You'll also notice that the shower head, the top shower head, is up there a ways. Archer was 6'5".
Oh my gosh.
So that was unheard of at that time also. And then we'll go into the bedroom.
I just said. Looks like they had this. Was closed.
Big, walking closet.
So I said I'd talk about windows. Let's get that out of the way first. In all cases, we've got hinge windows like this. This is original hardware. We've got gratings on the outside. Remember, the outside ones are not as ornate, and that's because that's the Moorish way. On the inside of that, we've got shutters. Shutters like this, they close, and 2x4 goes across them and locks them closed. So that would have been in 98% of the cases. A little bit later, you'll see some with guides down at the bottom, those slid, because maybe they hinge into the hallway, which you wouldn't want. So that's the story with windows. The ones that are missing, we have. We took them down before they fell and crashed and broke. There's a door right there that's actually Anna's dressing room. And I think there's almost 40 of them in there. And they're all, many years ago, they took them down, they logged, gave them numbers, and they never gave us a sheet that says. So we're in the middle right now of trying to figure that out. And we're doing this completely with volunteer hours. So this is the bedroom. When I first saw the bedroom, I thought it was pretty darn small for a building there, to be perfectly honest. Now picture Archer's bed, 8 feet long. The headboard's over there. It goes to here, there's not a whole lot of room in here at all. Except there were Murphy beds. Do you guys know what Murphy beds are? Do you want to know? Then don't listen. So they had Murphy beds, so the help would come, make their bed up, they would hinge it against the wall, and they would strap it to the wall. Then there's plenty of room here. What am I talking about? You know? So if you read some of the signs, this one in particular, and there's a few more, that refer to how much Anna liked looking out at the ocean. She would spend hours just watching the colors change in the ocean and watch the tides change, and she just was intrigued by it. So my question to all of you is, does anybody see an ocean?
Not here, anymore.
It's this way, okay? So in 1935, your high tide mark, your normal dunes and high tide, there's a birdhouse out there. Just about where that birdhouse would be your high tide. And if it was a king tide, it's about 40 to 60 feet out. Your king tide, like we had last week, where the tides are much higher than usual, it'd be 15 feet from the house.
Wow.
So how the heck did that happen? We didn't move the house. I guarantee that. Well, the trees are easy to understand because there were no trees here then. And the horticulturists came and planted these trees to protect the house. But the ocean moving, that's a different story. You see, let's see, I already told you Archer passed away in 1955. Anna, this frail lady that had to come down here because of tuberculosis, she passed away in 1973 at age 97. And right up until 1 year before, she was still sculpting. My favorite piece of book green she did at 88 years old. And it's huge. So now we got the years straight. 73, she died. 1988. The Army Corps, so they're already passed. The Army Corps of Engineers put 2 jetties in to protect Murrells Inlet. So what a jetty does is it stabilizes an inlet so that the tides don't change it and move it every year. So it allows the boats to come in and out, and it just keeps that. But a jetty goes way out into the ocean, okay? Side effect to that is that as the Gulf Stream is coming north, it's carrying sand with it as it's moving. And it runs into the jetty, it makes a big turn like this, it slows down. When it does, it drops all its sand. And then it continues north. So that's been happening for 80 years. Right here, we're 120 yards wider than we were in 1936. That's a lot of found land. I never hear complaints about the width of our beach. So, I mean, a lot of the neighborhoods have the opposite thing where the tides take their beach. Here, I guess this is where they bring it. We're happy to have it. There is a picture in the visitor center where you paid showing this in early 1930s with no trees and with the high tide mark that close. If you want to see it, I'll show it after we're done. just remind me, because I'm a scatterbrain. Surprised if she did.
Elton, was there ever thought to restore the house to its original state?
In somebody's dreams.
Uh-huh.
To be perfectly honest, I don't think the Huntingtons ever thought that the house would still be here today. But it is, and we're the benefactors.
So where did all the, so they didn't have kids?
Where did the money go?
Yeah.
You got that question out early. I usually don't get down until later. Archer once said, wherever I put my foot down, a museum grows. And he wasn't too far, you see, he's responsible for a huge number of museums. And then there's another huge number that doesn't publicly say that he started them, but he was the backer. So an awful lot of money went to museums. Brook Green Gardens is the main benefactor, okay, and that's, Brook Green Gardens is still run today the way they wanted it to. And that's where the monies would have been. I usually don't say this till later, but this land here, this house, all belongs to Brook Green Gardens. Okay, this is leased to the state to put the park in. So, when Anna leased it in 1960, she leased it for $1 a year. The lease is still in effect, but you'd be surprised, $1 a year isn't. Now it's based on percentages and they renegotiate.
Brook Green Gardens is the one who would decide whether or not to restore this to its.
They would be the ones to decide. And, it's not on the screen right now. They're actually going through a huge, capital campaign right now to put in some new, buildings over there. So this is not on their, radar screen. Most of the maintenance that gets done here is done by volunteers, and that's just the way it is. We're getting there. We're making progress. I mean, it's clean, right? Okay, so I'm gonna have you walk through Anna's bathroom. Okay, note the kitchen sink. After that, go down the hall. The next room is the secretary's office, Mrs. Perkins. That's her bedroom. She's got the same view that they had. After that, go down the stairs and I'll be down in the library.
Good bathroom.
Everybody be careful on the steps. I've fallen down them, they're not fun.
Are we going the right way?
Yep.
I was cleaning the ceiling walking backwards.
That's floor changed.
Floor change. Yeah. It's the library.
So I said I usually pick the rooms as to what I want to talk about. For some reason, I want to talk about the damage to the house in this room. You might be able to figure out why. So Archer was not an architect. He was the architect on this house. He designed it. He was the architect. He had many engineers working for him at Newport News, so he had access to information. But all the decisions were his to make. There were no building codes. There were no building inspectors. There was none of that. In most of the house, he put in ample footings, and the brick and the walls have stood up really well, which for brick is saying something, okay? But down at this end, there was a massive seawall. And he looked at that, he said, that's not going anywhere. We're not ripping that out. Just build on top of it. Well, that was a mistake. You see, the seawall didn't have a footing to it, and it was on sand. So as storms came and went, and sand moves. You don't build on sand. And when it all shifts around, the floor starts to fall. Okay? Once the floor starts to fall, the walls start to fall. Not all together, one falls, the other. So you start to get cracking. Then the lintels go. Once the lintels go, the whole place will fall down. We actually had to concrete this up so that it didn't fall down. We did replace some of the lintels. You can see these up here. And today what we do is monitor the damage and make sure that it's not getting worse. And it hasn't been moving. So that's any questions on any of that? It's also very difficult to do any changes to the house because it's on that list of historic places and it's a historic landmark, which I'll show you the plaques for after. So all of that makes it very difficult. So this was the library, and Archer would promote reading to his staff and make sure they used the library too. See, that was the only entertainment. There was no television, right? And I understand the internet didn't work well down here. And I can guarantee that because it still doesn't. So he would promote the reading and such. And they'd have all kinds of books in here. And it included research books. Now, why would research be important to a sculptor? See, Anna, before she met Archer, did a sculpture of Joan of Arc. She went over to France, and she did it over there. But she researched the correct period weaponry and armor, and nobody had gotten that right. Okay? And so she researched all that. She also put her on a horse because, well, come on, Joan of Arc was always on a horse anyway. And she did this sculpture and she entered it in a competition called the Salon. And she had done well in previous years at the Salon. But this year, they said, it's absolutely perfect. It couldn't be better. It's stellar, fantastic. But when it came time to give her a prize, she got an honorable mention. They couldn't believe that a female did it without the help of a male. Yeah, that happened then too. It hurt. It hurt her. It really did. She came back to the United States and continued to work. And what are you going to do? But there was a businessman in New York City who was throwing a celebration for Joan of Arc's 500th birthday. She's not still alive then. And he found out about this, and he hired Anna to redo that sculpture. This time, she supersized it, as McDonald's would say. She did it in bronze. All the entries to the competition would have been done in plaster. That statue is still in New York on 82nd and Riverside Drive. If you happen to be up there, check it out. And when they unveiled it, the French sent their ambassador over to give her award. They knew they messed up. So not only did she get the award, years later they made her an honorary citizen for what Joan of Arc did for the French. So people do turn around and they do straighten out, but it's difficult. So the next room that we're going to go in is the sunroom, and this is the front of the house. So the sunroom would have been the entrance, but since it was never used as an entrance, it was the sunroom. It's where the monkey was always kept. It's where the macaw was always kept. The monkeys were in the inside studio, and the baby monkey, if she was sculpting, would be all over her, and she loved it because she just loved animals. The yard would have been filled with peacocks and peahens and swans and all the time. The dogs had the run of the place. Now the alligator.
Oh,
There was an alligator that used to come into the house on a regular basis.
Oh, wow.
Didn't bother them. They loved animals. They loved all animals.
make the monkey.
So I have Anna's voice on tape saying, I don't like it when the alligator comes in the sculpting studio. Its tail knocks things over. Personally, I'm more concerned with the other end.
Right.
So we'll go out here, take the first right and go into the sunroom and check that out. Then come back out and I'll be at the center of the house.
Is that hallway there anything different than a hallway? Like, this thing's really narrow?
It's narrow because the Moorish fortresses had narrow passageways. If you go online and look up Moorish castles and such, and you'll see that narrow and they're all arched.
Okay.
Is there one light switch for all the lights in all the rooms?
So there was an alligator that would come in here.
Yeah, right.
No, I know they weren't. But yeah, I was just wondering if public opinion had changed and that's how rumors started then.
It could have been. I'd never heard that.
Do there commodes in the bathrooms or do they're just not there now?
Yeah, if you look at the floor, you'll see that they're concreted in.
Are there any biographies about him that you would recommend to her?
I can't come up with exactly which ones to, I get most of my information from a writer over at Brook Green that actually worked here with them.
Oh, wow.
So the Huntingtons weren't real social people. They weren't party animals. If you did visit them and if they did accept you to socialize with, this is where they would meet you. I'm looking up the straight road right now. Okay, that road went 3.5 miles all the way to the river, which is how people came in. Route 17 was State Route 49 at the time, which was not paved. So most people came in from boat and or from Brook Green. So they would meet you here and you'd go maybe for a glass of wine or a glass of tea or a cup of tea, maybe even some spirits in a number of different places. But the one thing for sure was when you were finished, you were expected to go home. No two ways about it. There's 30 rooms in this house. There is not a guest room. Sometimes I think they have the right idea. There's also not a billiards room, a ballroom, a formal dining room, even a living room for the Huntingtons. There's a living room for the servants, but not for the Huntingtons. They just were not social people. If they had to throw a big social party, they did it up north and they hated it. So when they built this place, they didn't include those spaces. And they pretty much came here to work and to be left alone. It also might be a reason why all the furniture was wrought iron. Nobody wanted to sit in that all day long. And they were fine with it. So you didn't like it, tough luck. That's what they wanted. So I made mention that we have the plaque here for, we went on that list of historic places in 1984 and became a historic landmark in 1992. And I've already told you that Brook Green Gardens owns this place, so they share this with us. There's signs on each side of the fireplace, and they both happen to mention their birth dates. It's March 10th for both of them. Okay, which is strange. So, anybody want to guess on what day they picked to get married?
March 10th.
There's still not got anybody gotten that wrong. Yes, they got married on March 10th, and they called it 3-in-1 Day. And I understand that Archer never forgot her anniversary.
Oh, there you go.
So we still do a 3-in-1 party here every year. We have, it used to be cake, now it's cupcakes. COVID changes things. And we just make a big deal out of their birthdays and such on March 10th.
That's neat.
And this year that's passed, I was blessed. Because on one of my tours, I had an 8-year-old girl. It was her birthday that day. And her name was Atalaya. And that wasn't done intentionally.
Oh, wow.
And I can't say it
Cool.
without getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest.
That's cool.
So we're going to walk down the hall. We're going to go through the breakfast room and into the dining room.
So not all of the fireplaces needed that, cool air, hot air.
Not all of them had it. I would tend to say 90% of them had it. This is a small room.
Right.
One of my favorite pictures of this house is when we have a fire going in this, and we still light this one. And we take a picture from in the front. So coming down the hall.
Nice.
We always light the fire on at our holiday festival on December 3rd. Promoted and anyway.
Would that be 6 years younger? Like
Yeah.
us. Like us. We get to walk through this when he's done.
What's that?
Well, we get to walk through
You
this.
can, yeah.
Are you wanting to?
I don't care.
I don't know if we need to or not.
And the walls that have the see-through, a lot of those are green too. Okay, so that I'll wait till everybody's here so everybody gets the benefit of your question. Actually, let's talk about that when we go back outside so people can see it. Okay, so this is the dining room. Why they had a breakfast room? Because they wanted one. I mean, now just imagine, look out these windows. That was the beach right there. They would be looking right at the water. But I did say there was no pictures on the walls and no wall hangings. Well, this room and that room are the exceptions. You see, there would be tapestries. Thank you. How'd you know what I was thinking?
Because it's on this sign over there.
There would be tapestries hanging here, there, over there. You hear my voice, you hear the echo in it?
Yep.
That's the only reason for the tapestries. They weren't beautiful pieces of art. They were just functional. And that's what they had. Told you the furniture was mostly wrought iron. This table was the table that was right here. It's not the pictures he taken here, but that's the table. And I told you that she gave some of the furniture to some of her longtime staff. So remember Mrs. Chandler in the corner that was living there? She gave Mrs. Chandler this table. So Mrs. Chandler was down having tea maybe 20 years ago, okay? She was having tea down here, and some of the docents got to meet with her and discuss things and get a better understanding. And one of the docents who's still here today said, "So Mrs. Chandler, do you still have the table?" And she said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "How much would you want for that?" And she said, "Young man, you don't have enough money." This table is still being used today in Houston, Texas by Mrs. Chandler's granddaughter. So, and she's in touch with the park staff, and they talk once in a while. But let's go into room 21.
Oops, I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
Unless they painted their own color.
Yes.
Oh, this was the kitchen.
So here's another exception. If you wanted to sit in a piece of furniture that was upholstered, that hugged you when it sat down, that was comfortable, this is where you came. See, this was the servants' room. Servants didn't want to sit in wrought iron furniture, they worked all day. So they told Archer just how they felt. And Archer went out, got them exactly the furniture that they wanted. Because I already told you the way he treated people. That's what they wanted, that's what they got. Now, there always had to be a servant in this room. And the reason is, this is where the intercom was. But wait a minute, I already told you there wasn't a phone ever in here when the Huntingtons were here. There's at least 40 of them in here now.
Yeah.
But in this room was the intercom, okay? The intercom worked on Archer pushing a button, okay? In whatever room he would do, he was in, he would push the button. Behind that door, you can see the where the cables used to be, and there was a box, and it would make a buzz, and a light would go on. And that light corresponded to the room that they needed help, and the servants would beat feet to that room to take care of it. So you never had to pick up the phone. Didn't even look like a phone. Is anybody curious how many servants they had? I can't tell you.
100.
They had 100 people working on the house when they built the house, but not servants.
Okay.
So the numbers I'm gonna come up with right now are above and beyond what Brook Green would have for people working there. Okay, so just servants in this house. The easy way to come up with it is, let's count the rooms, right? Well, there's 12 servants' rooms. So they had 12 servants. No, not quite that easy. You see, when they bought this house, this property, I told you it was a hunting club. Well, there was a hunting lodge right in the center of where the courtyard is now. It's actually where the Huntingtons stayed for those first couple years, those first couple winters while this was being built. They've stayed in there. When this was done enough, they moved in, they disassembled that house. Okay? They reassembled it right outside these windows. It's not there today. It's since been moved and is 1/3 of it, some of the Rangers live in on the property, and 2/3 of it are 2 other houses in Georgetown. That's how big it was.
Wow.
So they use that for additional servants. How many fit in there? I can't tell you, but a lot. In addition to that, they put another house over on the other side. They relocated it from Brook Green Plantation, and they used that for the kennels and for anybody that worked with the dogs. Now we haven't even touched yet on the people that lived in this area, the ones that stayed at home and just came in to work. I usually figure between 30 and 40 people to look after 2. Okay, that works. So that's nothing official about that number. That's just the number that I've come up with through the years and adding everything together. Take a right and another right.
Well, Downton Abbey, theirs was bells, wasn't it? Jim,
What?
wasn't Downton Abbey, theirs was bells?
Yeah.
They didn't have an intercom. Unless it was either, I don't know.
So this was the kitchen. All the meals would have been prepared here, not only for Archer and Anna, but also for all the servants. They fed all their help, all the meals. So now, Anna had a philosophy that whatever she and Archer were eating, everybody was eating. So I told you about the seafood. They love seafood. Everybody ate seafood. All of a sudden, that job for that guy that had to go fishing every day just got bigger. Okay, because he's feeding 40 instead of feeding 2. So in this kitchen would have been a coal stove here. You can tell we're vented up there. sinks were over in here. In this corner was a brand new, state-of-the-art, just developed refrigerator. Ran on propane gas, similar to what would be in RVs today. But now if you look at the size of that, that can't possibly hold for 30 or 40 people, right? Not for the amount of time they have to have it. So they had a backup plan, you see. They have a walk-in ice box. Now, when I say ice box, I mean it ran on 300-pound blocks of ice. 8 300 pounds of ice, 300-pound blocks that would have to be replaced every 7 to 10 days. Okay, there's a pantry, there's another pantry, and the ice box is just beyond that. Everything to the right within the wood structure would have been freezer. It would have been kept closed. The ice is packed down below. And there are holes in the side that allow some air to come out and make the rest of it refrigerated. So do like 4 or 5 people at a time. Go ahead and check that out. That's probably my favorite thing in the house. Now, people that had ice boxes, and we probably know parents and grandparents that had them years ago, it usually rotted out the floor where they were because they always leak.
Yeah.
And that wood would always be wet.
Yeah.
So it would rot out. They didn't have that problem here. They actually have a spot where it drains right out the side of the building. No issues whatsoever.
But like sinks always drain just outside too, or?
No, they had septics for the sinks, but just ice melting, there's no need to capture that and run it through.
This is amazing. Yeah. Forgot.
Density of water and ice, figuring how big that room is.
Pretty cool.
What I try, I get you to try to know the Huntingtons when I do this. So, this is where the staff would have eaten, would have taken their meals. They could also use this as a prep area for the kitchen, and then just eat right here. The head cook slept in room 27, but for some reason they didn't give her a room bathroom. I don't understand that. So we're going to walk down the hallway. Everything to the left, or the courtyard side. Mrs. Bernard is her name. This is what happens when you get older. You don't forget it, but your search engines go on and it just comes in at once. So all the rooms on the left are the servants' quarters. Okay, on the right is all storage, linens and countless things that they have to store. The last 2 rooms on the right are bathrooms. You'll notice that one has a shower and one has a toilet. You see, in 1930, if you were female, you took a shower. I mean, you took a bath. If you were a male, you took a shower. That wouldn't fly in my house today, but it was accepted then. Then walk down there. Each one of the servants' rooms identical or opposite hand. Each one will have the room for the bed. They had a wardrobe. They had a nightstand and a fireplace and a corkboard for some reason. Maybe to keep track of their schedule. I don't know. I'll meet you down in the laundry room at the end. There was 104 successful matches and I think 3 non-violent. Yes, they did. And that took some research on my part because being from the north, back then we got ice from right, and we live in nice house. Right, that's my town before for 22. Right, this is in research. They have the capability of being nice.
That's a nice window for a bathroom.
Probably nobody at that point again.
Nobody likes it.
Nobody was out there
Nobody
looking.
came in,
Right,
right?
right.
Just the
Another
picture.
Yeah.
Fireplace in the bathroom.
Oh, but we're supposed to get here.
So this was the laundry. Now this past year, we did all the windows on this side, took all the rust off and repainted them. So I spent many hours sitting out there on the scaffolding working. And I see people go through and hear them talking. And the big comment was, I wish my laundry room was this big. So I changed their mind because I would tell them, well, it's gonna come with a big tub of soapy water and a washboard. Okay? And then you're gonna have another big tub over here with clean water and a wringer to wring it out. All of a sudden, their laundry is big enough. So, well, that's how they would do it. They would take it after they wrung it out and they would bring it out into this area here where the solar dryer was. Clothesline. And they were a pulley system and they would stand right up here and put the clothes out. The laundry man, it was a laundry man, not a laundry woman. His bedroom was where the bathrooms are now. And the other person in there would have been the chauffeur. Now, I said he was a laundry man, but Archer had to twist it up. The butler was a female. So really put a twist on that. Now this room right here, number 32, probably the nicest room in the house as far as I'm concerned. This belongs to the head housekeeper. Her name is, McKinnon, Mrs. McKinnon. Mrs. McKinnon ran this house, okay? Archer was writing poetry and Anna was sculpting. They needed somebody to run the house. That was Mrs. McKinnon. Now, Mrs. McKinnon would come down 2 weeks before the Huntingtons and she would hire the help for that season, okay? Many times it was the same as the season before, but she would do it. And then with that help, working with her, they'd get the house all ready when the Huntingtons came. It was ready for them to move in. Likewise, she would spend 2 weeks after they left to clean the place all out and to lock all the windows, put the shutters closed, lock them all, lock the door, and she had the only key. So that didn't get opened for the entire summer the next year until she came back and opened it. Now, the staff from Brook Green Gardens could come and maintain the property, but they didn't come in the house. So, real quick story about Mrs. McKinnon. Anna was sculpting one day and an airplane landed on the beach. It didn't happen very often. So she had to go see what the heck is going on. So she gets out there, and Mrs. McKinnon is getting out of the airplane. It seems she wanted to do some shopping in Georgetown. So she conned one of the local flyboys, of which there was many, into giving her a ride. And Anna loved it. She went back and she wrote a letter to her mother. It's in her journal. She said, "Those up-to-date Long Islanders have nothing on us." She was so proud of that. So let's go out into the courtyard and we'll finish it up out there.
So here we have the solar dryer.
Laundry drying yard.
You can see where the hooks were attached to the wall. Okay, so I had a question halfway through the tour, and I put the person off until we got here where I can point to these bricks. Question had to do with a lot of the structure and the way things were done here is similar to what's over at Brookgreen. And that's because they use the same masons, the same, Archer was still the architect, for everything over there as well. But these walls are of interest because there's quite a few of those over there. And the history of these walls is that the Moors were, their religion didn't allow the females to show their face. So they would always have a veil on their face. If they made walls like this, it gave them enough blockage that they could be inside there without their face covered. And you couldn't see enough to, it satisfied their religious commitment, basically. There are basements in the two front corners. Okay, there are basements here for one reason. It's because Archer's from the north. People in the north have basements. Archer said he wanted a basement. The people down here said, Archer, you're right on the water. You put a basement, it's going to flood. Well, he put the basement in, and it flooded. And he couldn't use it for his wine cellar or his root cellar or all the other things that he really wanted to do. He did keep his water heaters down there. They were coal-burning water heaters, one on each side, which are still down there today. We can't let people down there because it's usually flooded. Imagine that. Also, there are stairs going up to the balcony or the patio. It's basically the roof of the house. And they would sit up there and be able to look out at the ocean. Again, we can't let people up there because there are no handrails, and somebody would fall. We have to keep the bathrooms locked down so people won't use them. So,
Oh, wow.
so we just can't let anybody up there. One of the thoughts that Archer had when he did this tower, they were coming down from the north. They heard down here had a lot of bugs. So his thoughts were, I want that to be a bat house as well. Okay. But as it worked out, the bats didn't move in. It's kind of smooth in there, and there was nothing to grip onto. But they had a backup plan that worked out much better. They were only here in the winter. We don't have bugs in the winter. So it all worked out. The little trough on each side of the tower is nothing more than a bird bath. And Anna put in her journal that she loved to see her dogs drinking from the bird bath. It made her happy. The trees were planted in the mid-1930s, and you can tell which ones weren't. Small ones were just planted, but these are all original. On the top of some of the chimneys, if you walk around, you'll be able to find one. They had a problem with the smoke, the wind from the ocean blowing the smoke back into the house. With Anna with tuberculosis, you couldn't have that. So Archer either developed or had developed tops for these that had a sail on them. And when the wind blew, it turned it so that it was facing with the wind, and it actually takes a draw out of the house. If that interests you, one of them's been cleaned up, and it's in the back of the garage where you paid. Go in and check that out.
Interesting.
1941. Somebody asked me about this earlier, and I wanted to wait. I think it was you. 1941, World War II happened. The Huntingtons gave up this house. They left it completely. Archer even let him bring a phone in. He gave it over to the Army Air Corps, and the Army Air Corps moved in here. They used all the rooms for barracks, including the house that was over there. They put machine guns up on the roof, up on the patio. They put satellite radar over here, and they patrolled the beaches looking for spies, looking for U-boats that were dropping spies off. They didn't find any right here, but they did find some just south of here. If you've heard of Hobcore Barony, they did find somebody that just got off a U-boat, and they arrested him and took him in. Then Anna and Archer came back here after for only one season. At that time, Archer was in a wheelchair. So once the 46-47 season was over, they never stayed here again. Today, we use this mainly for weddings. We do a lot of weddings here. You might get married on one side and have the reception on the other. The weddings are always at night. You have to bring in your lighting, your food, your tents, and everything that you need. But it's very popular. I've met, I don't know how many people on my tours that have gotten married here. The one that catches me, 1998 they got married, and it cost $99 to rent the whole place. It's not that anymore.
That's a good deal. That'd be pretty.
What else?
What did they both die of?
Well, at 85 and 97, I think old age had something to do with it. They had no issues. They had no unfinished business. They lived a very happy life. They were extremely happy together, and they supported each other tremendously. And they're responsible for everything around here, everything that has happened. And if you get a chance to go to Brook Green, take it. Is there anything I didn't touch on that you wanted to know? Is there anything as a beating question? Well, thanks for coming, and feel free to go back, take pictures any place you want. You paid for the debt. Thank you.
Give us a thumbs up if you liked our video, and please subscribe by clicking the circle with our pictures on it. Thank you.